Good morning and welcome you all to this course titled Electric Vehicle Technology. Myself Dr. Manoj Kumar Mohana started offering this course for undergraduate BTech students in mechanical engineering at Department of Mechanical Engineering at NIT Rourkela. For students of NIT Rourkela, please note down you will be able to reach my office at the room number ME 118, first floor of the new Mechanical Sciences building, and whenever you require to contact me, you can contact me over my landline phone, and also you can reach me over email ID uh, if you require any kind of help. The title of this course is Electric Vehicle Technology. The subject code is ME4330 and it is a 3 credit course, means we will meet every week for 3 hours to learn this subject titled Electric Vehicle Technology. For students of NIT Rourkela, the class timings for spring 2020-23 is as follow here. Tuesday we will meet at 3:15 to 4:10 p.m. Thursday at 2:15 to 3:10 p.m. and Friday at 1:15 to 2:10 p.m. We will start this learning of the subject titled Electric Vehicle Technology with this objective. The objective of this course is to introduce the students the fundamentals of emerging electric vehicle technology for sustainable development. And at the end of this course, it is expected that the average student who attends the class attentively and gives enough effort for learning this subject will be able to understand the fundamentals and the architecture of electric vehicles. I will be able to know about different components of electric vehicle, their working principles, and at the end of the semester we will be able to make a model or simulate an electric vehicle in a group of students. That will help them to use their learning knowledge and enhance their learning experience for the subject electric vehicle technology. In this course, we have been divided the whole course content into different modules. In the first module, we will talk about the introduction to electric vehicle technology. We will try to understand what is the need of clean and green sources of energy, how it is an alternate technology to conventional IC engine technology, and we will learn briefly about the history of electric vehicles, because it is very interesting to know how electric vehicle evolved with respect to time. Then we will see what are the types of electric vehicles available, and we will learn the electric vehicle architecture. So, roughly we will cover this around in 3 hours time, it is expected. So, the number of hours required to cover every module may change, though where I have given a tentative timeline only. Then we will talk about the vehicle dynamics, we will learn about different forces acting on a vehicle. Accordingly, we will be able to design and calculate how much tractive force required for keeping a vehicle in the rolling condition, and what is the power required for rolling motion, and we will also consider the real world conditions while modeling and calculating the power requirement for an electric vehicle. Then in the third module, we will learn about the motor, which is the heart of this EV, which is an alternate to a engine that is used in a conventional petrol or diesel based vehicle. To understand the function of motor, we need to have the knowledge of background theory like Lorentz force, Coulomb's law, Biot-Savart law. Then we will learn about different types of motors like brush DC motor, brushless DC motor, reluctance motor, and then we will learn about AC induction motor, for which we need to know about the Faraday's law. Then we will learn about calculating the efficiency of a motor and maximum acceleration. In module 4, we will learn about batteries, which is the driving force today, because in recent times development in battery technology have accelerated the growth and adoption of EV electric vehicles compared to petrol diesel based vehicles in recent times. So, in batteries we will start with an introduction, we will learn about the fundamentals of battery, important battery like your lithium ion battery, how it works, then different battery characteristics, and charging of electric vehicles. So, we will learn about these things in the module number 4. Then controller is an important part of an electric vehicle, where we will learn about the basic introduction to controller, the circular elements of a controller, then the controllers like step down DC controller, step up, step down DC controller and AC controller, etc. We will study in detail about them. Then in module 6 we will learn about efficiency and emissions of an electric vehicle, regarding the vehicle efficiency, charging efficiency, transmission and distribution efficiency and generation efficiency. Then other sources of energy being used compared to EV, and how the source of energy is clean and green, that we will also learn here. Then in the 7th module we will learn about thermal management of electric vehicles, because thermal management of battery is an important aspect in successful running of a electric vehicle. Removal of heat from EV continuously and maintaining the temperature of the battery system below the desired threshold temperature is very important. This module plays an important role in learning this subject, electric vehicle technology. Then in module 8 we will learn about different incentives and barriers in adopting electric vehicle. So, there we will start with what are the incentives available at present provided by central and provincial governments in India, like zero emission vehicle mandate, fleet emission requirement, rebate and taxes provided by different governments as incentives, reduced vehicle fee, HOV lane access and support for charging, and what are the barriers to EV technology, like the range and the cost details we will study here. Then the last module, that is module 9, we will study about present status and future of electric vehicle, where the important aspect is charging, and under charging new emerging technology is wireless charging, quick charging. Then in batteries, increasing the range and density, decreasing the cost, and innovative vehicle design towards complete electrification, and emerging EV technology related is electric highways. So, this is this will be the overall 9 modules in which we will cover the overall content of this course, and additionally it is expected that students will be able to do little bit of project work or kind of simulation on EV vehicles, not as a individual student, but a group of 3 to 5 students, to make their learning experience better and more efficient. The course evaluation structure includes 30% credit will go to the mid semester evaluation, 50% credit will go to the end semester evaluation, and the last 20% evaluation will go toward the teachers assessment. And the teachers assessment includes conventional class tests as well as project or simulation work done by students in group. Before we start learning, it is important to discuss about the sources of learning. The first and the foremost source of learning on electric vehicle technology is existing books in the market. Here I have listed name of few books like Electric Vehicle Engineering from McGraw-Hill publication by Per Ans, Nick Ans and Stephen Joep. The second book on electric vehicle technology titled Electric Vehicle Machines and Drives, Design, Analysis and Application from Wiley publication by K.T. Chow. And next book is on Thermal Management of Electric Battery Systems from Wiley publication, authored by Ibrahim Dinsar, Haliles Hamut and Nader Javani. In addition to these 3 books, here are again 3 more books are there. The first book is Electric Vehicle Technology Explained by James Larmini and John Lowry by Wiley publication. Next book is Electric and Hybrid Vehicles Design Fundamentals, written by Iqbal Hussain, published by CRC Press. and the next book is titled Modern Electric, Hybrid Electric and Fuel Cell Vehicles, Fundamentals, Theory and Design, authored by Mehradad Ehsani, Yamin Gao, Ali Emadi, published by CRC Press. In addition to these 6 books, I have another last book that is titled Electric and Hybrid Vehicles, Power Sources, Models, Sustainability, Infrastructure and the Market. It is a edited book basically, written by multiple authors and edited by Professor Pistoia. In addition to these 7 books, the students are free to collect a name of new books written on this topic, for which you can take the help of Google Books, where you will be able to find out details about more books being published on the topic electric vehicle technology. In addition to the books, it is important to refer to different websites, considering that this electric vehicle technology is emerging in recent times at a very faster rate. In addition to different websites, you need to refer to manufacturer website, specifically the electric vehicle manufacturers, where you will get lot of information related to EV technology, emerging technologies, and some magazines related to automobiles, where you will find out dedicated sections on EV technology that will provide comprehensive further added information in this field. Now, start a formal introduction to this topic titled electric vehicle technology. So, here first question comes to our mind, how an electric vehicle is different than a non-electric vehicle, that is a conventional petrol or diesel based vehicles. So, here we can see there are 2 cars are there, both red in color. The design wise there is some similarities there, but by looking at this vehicle, it is very difficult to identify whether this vehicle is a electric vehicle or a conventional petrol or diesel based vehicle. And here if you closely observe, you will be able to find that the vehicle on the left hand side, that belongs to Tesla Motors, which is a American multinational company which specializes in manufacturing electric vehicles, whereas on the right side you see a very popular model from Honda Motors India, known as the Honda MH, which is a conventional petrol diesel based vehicle. So, at this point we can make a conclusion that by look of a automobile or a car, it is very difficult to understand whether it is a electric vehicle or it is a petrol or diesel based vehicle. Here you find out the popular model from Tata Motors, known as Nixon EV Prime, the first model launched by Tata Group. Then subsequently they have also launched 2 more EV models, the second one being Tigor EV, and in recent time they have launched a new model of EV known as Tiago. Here you see this very attractive advertisement that I collected from the website of Tata Motors. They have listed their all the features of this electric vehicle, like the range of the vehicle, the IP67 rated battery pack and motor for the purpose of safety, and type of battery being used, the duration of time required for full charging a vehicle, and the rate of acceleration, and important was the range that vehicle can cover. If you try to understand how basic from look wise we can find the difference between a electric vehicle and non-electric vehicle, is that an electric vehicle requires a electric charging point. That is why we need to provide electric power input to a EV. That means on the electric vehicle there should be a point to which you will provide the electric supply as the input. Similarly, in case of a petrol or diesel based car, we find out a opening through which we add the fuel into the tank of the vehicle, which is the driving source for as the fuel. So, if you closely observe the difference in the structural way, it is almost same, because you will see one small cover only, that covers basically the inlet to the petrol or diesel or the electric charging point. But when this lid is covered, it is very difficult to understand the difference between this petrol diesel based vehicle or electric vehicle. Now question arises, what is an electric vehicle? So, we will go for a formal definition. An electric vehicle is a vehicle that uses one or more electric motors for the purpose of propulsion, and electric vehicle also very popularly described as EV, capital EV. So, very frequently I will be also using the term EV to indicate electric vehicle. So, here you see the photograph of a conventional electric motor, and here you see the cut section of a electric motor showing different parts of the motor. From our high school knowledge, we have already learned that motor is a very simple device that basically converts electrical energy into a mechanical energy, where when you supply a current through the coil of the motor, the coil starts rotating in between a north and south magnetic poles. So, here what happens is, there will be an interaction between the motor's magnetic field and the electric current that flows through the winding, and because of which a force is generated in the form of a torque that is applied on the shaft of the motor, which causes the shaft of the motor to rotate. So, when we think of designing an EV, we can think for a very crude design, where we will connect the shaft of the motor to the shaft of a wheel of the automobile, where when you switch on the motor by supplying current to the motor from the battery, the motor shaft rotates, which will directly rotate the tire of the automobile, which will cause the rolling motion of the vehicle in the forward direction. But the overall technology is not so simple as we think of this one, because here you see practically all the four wheels will drive at 4 different speeds. That requires either using a single motor or multiple motors, then the controllers which will basically control individual speed of the tires. The simple EV that we are seeing from our childhood days is a remote control car, which we can say is nothing but the simplest electric vehicle that we are using since our childhood days, where we provide the power source to the toy, though we do not call this to electric vehicle, but in principle it can be called as electric vehicle, because this toy car basically receives the energy from battery cells. With the help of motors, they drive the wheel of this uh, toy car. Next is the source of power for an electric motor of a electric vehicle. An electric motor of a electric vehicle can be powered by a collector system, basically using electricity from extravehicular source, like here in this photograph you can see an electric city train system, and that is receiving the electrical energy from the overhead cable with the help of a collector system. So, this one is known as the collector system. Then the second source is where the vehicle is powered autonomously by taking the power from a battery, and the battery may be receiving power which is being charged by solar panels, or maybe converting fuel into electricity using fuel cells or a generator, that is also possible. Otherwise, you can have a battery that can be charged also by taking current from the power line sources. So, here you can see the photograph of a modern one arm pantograph collector with double collector shoes, where you can see while the EV is in the rolling condition, that is in motion, uh, This pantograph will be always continuously in touch with this overhead high voltage electric line, from where it will receive the power and continuously it supplies the electrical energy to the train system. Here you can see a city a tramway system, where you can see multiple overhead lines going uh, all the way, and here you see a very simple arrangement of you can observe, where if you zoom into that system in this region, you will find that one wheel is there, which basically remains in in contact with this overhead high voltage line, while continuously it is in the rolling condition. This is the oldest technology being used since development of the electric vehicles. Here in this photograph you can see, and the first trolley bus developed by Siemens in the year 1882, where the trolley bus while in motion is receiving power from the overhead high voltage line with the help of a trolley system, you can see here. And this photograph gives a glance of electric highway in Sweden, a modern technology, where the technology of receiving energy from the overhead cable is same that of electric trains receiving electric energy from overhead cables, where there will be dedicated lanes on which the driver needs to drive uh, continuously, and the driver needs to maintain the tracks and ensure that always the vehicle is moving above the high voltage electric lines. Whenever there is a situation arises where there is a need to overtake an vehicle, what you can do is you can switch from live electric line to battery mode, where you can accelerate and you can overtake from the left, and again you can return back to the right side to the main electric line if you want to take the live power sources to run the vehicle. Then secondly, we will talk about in detail about powered autonomously by a battery. So, here you can see these photographs where you can see a electric car being charged with the help of electric ports here. As we discussed earlier, the source of power can be from solar panel. As you can see here in this photograph, a small flight having solar panels installed at the top of its wings, where continuously it receives solar energy and providing this energy to the battery. And in the second case, we can use a fuel cell, where with the help of hydrogen and oxygen, we will be able to produce electricity inside the vehicle only, with getting water as the outlet. Thus, it is a in principle zero pollution to run a electric vehicle. Of course, here we are not going to discuss in detail about the technology of the fuel cell, that we will discuss later on. This is the photograph of zero emission fuel cell bus developed indigenously in India in collaboration with Sentient Labs. And here you see this news article which reads, India's first hydrogen fuel cell bus unveiled in Pune, and here you can find out the date of this news article, 24th August 2022. So, the technology is very recent, it is less than 6 months old only. And here you see more photographs about this new technology being developed indigenously in India only. And here it will give you a glance of a fuel cell bus, where you can see fuel cell systems along with storage cylinders for hydrogen will continuously provide source of energy, electricity as the source of energy to the battery, that will help to drive this electric bus. So, next we will go detail into the history of electric vehicles, because it is very interesting to learn about the history of electric vehicles. So, to understand the history of electric vehicles, we need to cover history of automobiles, we need to cover history of electricity, and we need to cover history of batteries. So, instead of covering all these three topics separately. Here I will be discussing the developments in automobile, electricity and battery together with respect to time. So, here in this photograph you can see a variety of vehicles starting from a cycle to a two-wheeler, to a four-wheeler car, a bus, truck and a small aeroplane. If you closely observe, all these vehicles have one common part that is called the wheel of the vehicle, which is an important part of a vehicle which helped us for developments till so far. If you try to trace back the development of the wheel, it basically can be considered to be the invention of the pottery wheel, which was done during the copper age during the time around 4500 to 3300 BCE. So, here in this photograph on the right hand side you can see a conventional pottery wheel being run by hand only, and on the left hand side you see a modern pottery wheel being driven by a electric motor only with the help of a pulley. You can observe here the old device being converted into a modern device by using a electric motor and a pulley arrangement to drive the pottery wheel. Of course, here we will be able to increase the overall efficiency of the person who will be able to produce more number of pottery items per unit time. Here you see the photograph of the world famous car festival of Lord Jagannath at Puri in Odisha in India. If you go through the history, you will find that car festival being organized continuously since its inception. One source tells that the car festival at Lord Jagannath Puri started in the year 9th century, since 9th century AD, and the other source tells that it was started since 1223 AD. If you go through the history, you will find out that the size of this moving structures, three cars, remain same over the time, and here the wheels plays an important part in making this car festival a success. It will not be wrong to say that this is the oldest man-made moving structure since in operation since its initial days. This is the photograph that gives the evidence of first wheeled vehicle that was probably appeared first in the year 3500 BCE. During that time, during the copper age, solid wooden wheels or discs with a hole for having axles being used to pull a cart that is driven by horses. And these wheeled carts have been found across Middle East, Europe, India and China while digging the earth at many places. And here you can find out a model of the steam turbine powered fast moving vehicle where thermal energy is being used to move an automobile, which was demonstrated in the year 1680 by Flemish missionary Ferdinand Verbiest, who is the first person to design a self moving vehicle where we provide the thermal energy as the input to convert water into steam, and the high pressure steam used to run a turbine system that with the help of some gear type arrangement runs the wheels of the vehicle. A wheel is basically a circular component that is intended to rotate on an axle bearing, and wheel is the most important component along with axle, which is a part of the 6 simple machines. So, here on the right hand side you can see the photographic representation of 6 simple machines, which includes a lever, a wheel and axle, a pulley, a taking a load over an inclined plane, a wedge to open anything, or to lift something, and a screw jack to lift heavy weights. So, a simple machine is a mechanical device that changes the direction or magnitude of a force, and a simple machine can be defined as the simplest mechanisms that use mechanical advantages known as the leverage to multiply the force, which help us to do bigger work by giving lesser effort or the lesser force. These 6 classical machines that are defined here in this diagram uh, by the Renaissance scientists uh, from Europe during the Middle Age to the modern times, covering the period 1500 and 1600 century AD. The wheel along with these axles, it help us to move heavy objects easily from one point to another point by transporting very heavy loads. Uh, so, here you can see a wheel connected to a shaft having higher diameter where a rope is used to lift heavy loads, and in this diagram you can see wheeled toys found underneath the earth. This gives a clue that in olden days also people had the idea of using a wheel to move a load from one point to another point. Benjamin Franklin in 1749 first used the term battery basically to describe a group of capacitors that is linked together to produce a strong discharge. Before that one, a battery used to be simply referred to a group of things working together as the case of a artillery battery. So, here you can see the photograph of the uh, first model automobile developed by French army captain Nicolas Cugnot in the year 1769 using a reciprocating steam engine. Uh, uh, Captain Nicolas Cugnot in the next year, that is in the year 1770, built a full size version of this automobile, which was able to carry 4 people at the speed of 2.25 miles per hour. Considering the technology at that time, this was a very great achievement, of course. Then in the year 1800, uh, Voltaire developed the Voltaic pile, which is considered to be the first battery capable of supplying continuous current to a circuit with the help of stacked metals and brine soaked clothes in series. Then in the year 1807, French inventor Isaac de Rivaz designed the hydrogen powered IC engine that is used to power a small carriage which can be considered the first automobile with an internal combustion engine. In the year 1815, Czech professor Joseph Bojek built a steam car powered by the oil. You can see on the right hand side that photograph. Then in the year 1820, Danish physicist Hans Christian, he was giving a lecture on electricity. During the lecture, he observed the deflection of a compass needle when current flown through the electric circuit nearby. This helped him to conclude or confirm a relationship between electricity and magnetism, which paved the way for a lot of developments in the field of electricity and magnetism. So, in the same year, Ampere invented solenoid, showing that a uniform magnetic field can be produced inside a cylindrical coil that carries current in a wire. In the next year, English scientist Michael Faraday built the first motor, a homopolar motor, in which a current carrying wire that is extended into a pool of mercury that basically rotates around a magnet, as you can see here in this photograph on the right hand side. In the year 1824, English physicist William Sturgeon invents the electromagnet, and he demonstrated the power of this electromagnet by lifting 9 pound with a small piece of iron wrapped with wire, which was basically powered by a battery, as you can see here on the right hand side. In the year 1824, Hungarian priest Enios Jedlik invented the first direct current motor or DC motor, uh, uh, which consists of a starter, rotor and a commutator. He built a model electric car also to demonstrate the potential to apply use a motor for running a electric vehicle. In the year 1831, Faraday investigated induction. Current from a battery used to induce a magnet field around a coil of wire, in which when moved inside another coil of wire induces current in other wire, which is detected by a galvanometer. In the year 1833, Russian physicist Lenz formulated the famous Lenz's law, which states that an induced current flows in a direction that opposes the change that produces it. In the next year, Vermont blacksmith Thomas Davenport basically built a DC motor, and he demonstrated its potential by building a model electric train in the year 1834. 2 years later, in the year 1836, English chemist John Frederick Daniel invented the Daniel cell, which basically uses two metal electrodes and two electrolytes separated by a porous earthenware barrier to produce a long lasting and more reliable current than the voltaic cell. In 1838, a Prussian engineer von Jacobi built a 28 feet electric paddle wheel boat powered by batteries from zinc batteries. This was capable of transporting around a dozen of passengers against the current of the river Neva. In the year 1842, Scottish inventor Robert Davidson built the first full-size electric locomotive, Galvani, which travels at 4 miles per hour using zinc as the primary battery. You can see the advertisement given by Mr. Robert Davidson exhibiting the electromagnetic moving powered vehicle of that time. So, during that time, uh, uh, people involved in electric steam engineers, they expected fewer competition from electric locomotive. So, they basically smashed the Galvani that was developed by Robert Davidson. In the year 1859, based on the experiments done by William Sinsterden, French physicist Gaston Plante demonstrated the first practical lead-acid battery, which can be considered as the first rechargeable batteries also, where he was able to recharge it by passing current in the reverse direction. In the year 1861, Scottish mathematician James Clerk Maxwell reduces electromagnetic knowledge to an elegant series of equations known as Maxwell equation, which later helped to do the mathematical analysis of electromagnetism. In 1867, Austrian inventor Franz Kravogel demonstrates an electric bike at an world exhibition at Paris, but he was not able to drive it very reliably, but it created curiosity among people using electricity as the source of energy to drive a vehicle, which we can say accelerated or ignited minds of people for developing electric vehicles. In the year 1878, Amde Bolle produced around 50 pieces of his steam car, making it the first automobile which was done as a mass production. Then in 1879, English physicist Walter Bailey demonstrated the basic principles of induction motor by rotating a copper disc manually, switching the direction of the current in a electromagnet. In the year 1881, French electrical engineer Gustave Trolley fit an electric motor to a tricycle, making it the first manned electric road vehicle. So, we can say physically for the first time a man moved from one point to another using electrical energy in the year 1881. In the same year, Siemens company launched the first electric tramway uh, in the suburban of Berlin, where each car propelled by a 4 kilowatt DC motor powered by the rails, as you can see here in the right side in the photograph. Then in the year 1882, the electromote built by the same company Siemens and Halske, considered to be the first electric vehicle to run like a trolley bus by taking electric power from the overhead cables, as you can see here in this photograph. So, if you go through the history of automobiles, we will find out lot of interesting stories are there, and if we try to trace back till today, it is very difficult to cover everything in this class. So, I leave it to all the students to do it yourself uh, to learn more detailed history. So, here what you can do is, in the first generation of commercial automobiles during the 20th century, you can try to understand what initially made these electric vehicles very attractive compared to a IC engine vehicles. Then secondly, you can try to understand what basically contributed to the decline of electric vehicles in the early 20th century. Then you can also try to collect information on what key developments that basically again renewed interest in electric vehicles during the mid 20th century among the scientists of that time. Then you can try to understand what key developments enabled the revival of electric vehicles during the final decade of the 20th century. Then you can try to understand what basically helped to decline uh, in the electric vehicles during the early years of the 21st century. Then again you can try to understand uh, what key developments enabled the current generation of electric vehicles again gained momentum in the development. So, here you can try to understand these 6 points from the history of electric vehicles, which you will be able to do it yourself by referring to books, internet sources itself. Students who are very much interested in more detail of the history of electric vehicles, here I am recommending a book titled A History of Electric Cars, written by Nigel Burton, published by Ramsbury, England, published by Crowd in the year 2013.